Hello and welcome, my young friends, at your own channel for discussions regarding English literature, that is Lit City. Friends, this particular lesson is dedicated to all the aspirants of NAT. Friends, NET का जो एग्ज़ाम है, it is one of the toughest exams in India, and especially when we talk about English literature. I can't say you all know that how tough it is to crack NET and further JRF. Now recently NET has revised its syllabus, and we can see in past few years that focus is now shifted on theories, and especially new theories like cultural studies. Friends, that's why not only I will introduce you to some concepts related with these theories, but I have also prepared certain questions that I deem important from that point of view. I can assure you that maybe the language is different and maybe you will find some other things related to these, but these questions will certainly come into direct or indirect form into your NAT papers this time or next time. So I hope you understand the importance of this lesson and you will follow it. और हम कोशिश करेंगे इस साथ में कॉन्सेप्ट को भी समझने की कि क्या क्या ये क्वेश्चन है, कैसे ये काम करते हैं. All these things we will try to understand and work into this particular lesson, that is cultural studies important question part first. Okay friends, देखिए cultural studies is an emerging, I would say an established field of studies. It is, we know, an interdisciplinary field. Cultural studies के अंदर there have been many thinkers, new concepts: Stuart Hall, Theodore Adorno, Raymond Williams, one of the founder, Umberto Eco, Italian one, Patricia Hill Collins, Ziauddin Sarkar, and many more. And this chapter will focus on certain concepts. तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं हम इन इम्पॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन से. पहला क्वेश्चन, इट इज रिलेटेड विद डेफिनेशन एंड वेरी पॉपुलर वन. Culture includes the organization of production, the structure of the family, the structure of institutions which express or govern social relationships, the characteristic forms through which members of the society communicate. This is one of the most basic and very popular definitions of culture given by a famous Marxist and cultural theorist. Now, the options now are first is Richard Haggard, Raymond Williams, E.P. Thompson, and Stuart Hall. So you have to guess who is the writer of this definition. Organization of production, structure of the family, structure of institution, and which express or govern social relationship. I hope many of you have read about this particular definition. Okay, this is time. I have given you enough time to think, mull over it, and this is time for answer. Yes, friends, it is Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams, who is very important name in the field of cultural studies. In fact, cultural materialism, an offshoot of cultural studies from Marxist point of view. Okay, moving over to our next question. Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies. It is considered as the most important institute in the development of cultural studies. Who was the first director of Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies? पहली बात तो ये यू मस्ट नो कहाँ पर ये स्टार्ट हुआ था, क्योंकि उस नाम से भी इसको जाना जाता है. इट वाज इन बर्मिंगम, यूएसए. बर्मिंगम के अंदर इसको एस्टेब्लिश किया गया था एज अ स्कूल ऑफ स्टडीज. एंड माय क्वेश्चन इज, इसके पहले डायरेक्टर कौन थे? ऑलमोस्ट सेम ऑप्शन है, क्योंकि दीज वर द फर्स्ट वन who basically introduced the field of cultural studies. Is it Richard Haggard once again, रेमंड विलियम्स, E.P. थॉमसन एंड स्टुअर्ट हॉल? देखिए क्वेश्चंस का एक बड़ा फायदा होता है फ्रेंड्स हमें, we not only know about that particular question, but we also come to know about many names related with that particular field. तो यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं 2 बार मैंने ये नाम रिपीट करे हैं, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड। और आप जो भी नेट एस्पायरेंट्स हैं उनके लिए मैं बोलना चाहूँगा दैट ऑलवेज गो थ्रू ऑल दी ऑप्शंस। आप केवल अगर आंसर जानते हैं तो भी remaining 3 options, study about them, why they are included in that particular question, why they have been put together with that particular answer. Okay, this is time for answer, और इसका आंसर है दोस्तों yes, रिचर्ड हागार्ड। he was the first डायरेक्टर ऑफ CCCB एंड इनफैक्ट बर्मिंगम के अंदर जब इस स्कूल को एस्टेब्लिश किया गया, रिचर्ड हागार्ड के जो एंडेवर्स थे, उनके जो अटेम्प्ट्स थे टू मेक इट अ वेरी important form of discussion, it led to the development of cultural studies in the 70s and 60s and 70s. Okay, moving over to our next question and a very important one. In fact, जून 2019 के अंदर इसके अंदर से क्वेश्चन आया है, पहले भी आ चुका है, and the question is, the Italian philosopher Gramsci was of the view that consent to the rule. Now, consent to the rule of the dominant group is achieved by the spread of ideologies, beliefs. Ideologies is consist of beliefs, assumptions and values through social institutions such as there is a gap, such as schools, churches, courts and the media, among others. The term we are talking about, that term that refers to domination or rule maintained through such ideological or cultural mean. देखिए पूरा ही ये important है, वो टर्म जो रेफर करती है डोमिनेशन और रूल मेंटेन थ्रू सच आइडियोलॉजिकल और कल्चरल मीन, वो टर्म क्या है? यस फ्रेंड्स, देखिए लेजिटिमेशन, रेइफिकेशन, स्ट्रक्चरेशन एंड हेजेमनी। वंस अगेन देखिए, अगर आपको आंसर आता है या ग्राम्स्की के नाम से आपने एक टर्म को एसोसिएट कर रखा है, दैट्स गुड, आपका ये क्वेश्चन क्लियर हो जाएगा। बट व्हाट अबाउट अदर टर्म्स? या लेजिटिमेशन अगर आंसर है, रेइफिकेशन है, अगर स्ट्रक्चरेशन या हेजेमनी आंसर है, व्हाट अबाउट द अदर टर्म्स? यू मस्ट आल्सो अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट दे मीन बिकॉज दे आर इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट along with the answer. And yes, it's rather an easier question. जिन्होंने भी थोड़ा बहुत cultural studies को पढ़ा है, they know very well that hegemony is the concept which is closely associated with the works of Gramsci, the Italian philosopher. Okay, reception theory of coding and decoding a media message is associated with this cultural theorist. Okay, this one is important. Now this particular theory of coding and decoding a media message, how a message is encoded in media and how the audience or the spectator decode it, ये पूरा जो कॉन्सेप्ट था रिसेप्शन थियरी का, ये एक बहुत एस्टेब्लिश्ड लिटरेरी थियरिस्ट, कल्चरल थियरिस्ट ने दिया था और बड़ा ही इम्पोर्टेंट उनका नाम है और काफ़ी ज़्यादा उन्होंने काम किया है। Stuart Hall, Raymond Williams, Julian Stewart or Theodore Adorno, they all are very influential theorists in their own field. Okay, if we talk about the answer to this question, obviously it is Stuart Hall. He followed basically Richard Haggard as the director of CCCB और बर्मिंगम के इन्होंने संभालने के बाद ही इंट्रोड्यूस मैनी न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट्स। केवल वो मार्क्सिस्ट को न लेकर बार्थे का पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म, साइको एनालिसिस, फेमिनिज्म, इन सबको उन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस करा कल्चरल स्टडीज के अंदर। एंड ही आल्सो गिव दिस very influential theory of coding and decoding a media message. His works on TV and its impact as a cultural text is very important. Okay, which among the following is a valid statement regarding the closely associated theories? Two theories, one is cultural materialism and the other one new historicism. इन दोनों से रिलेटेड, दो बोथ हैव वन पर्टिकुलर वी कैन से सिमिलैरिटी, और वो सिमिलैरिटी है दे बोथ एक्सप्लोर द text from different angles rather than just literary angles. And which among these sentences is valid? First, while new historicists focus on the oppressive aspects of society which people have to overcome to achieve change. Cultural materialists focus on how that change is wrought. Okay, first option कहता है कि जो न्यू हिस्टोरिस्ट थे उनका फोकस केवल ऑपरेसिव एस्पेक्ट्स पर था सोसाइटी के, जिनके द्वारा लोग जिनको चेंज करने के लिए जो जो लोगों को चेंज करने थे, जबकि कल्चरल मटेरियलिस्ट they discuss about the process of the change. First, this is the difference. Second, cultural materialism uses core texts from the entire trajectory of text history, whereas new historicism uses only core texts that would be contemporary to the text in question. Okay, it means in cultural materialism पूरा ट्रेजेक्ट्री इनिशियल पब्लिकेशन से लेकर रिसेंट पब्लिकेशन जो उस टैक्स से रिलेटेड है, इट कवर ऑल दूज टैक्स, जबकि न्यू हिस्टोरिसिज्म दे आर बेसिकली लोकेटेड इनटू दैट पर्टिकुलर टाइम, कंटेम्परेरी ऑफ दैट टाइम. दिस इज अनदर डिफरेंस. एंड थर्ड वन इज where new historicists would be satisfied to bring to light hidden power relation in a cluster of Renaissance texts, cultural materialists seek to find instances of dissidence, subversion, transgression that are relevant in the contemporary political struggles. Okay, तो न्यू हिस्टोरिसिस्ट उनका फोकस है केवल पावर रिलेशन को एक्सपोज करना, जबकि कल्चरल मटेरियलिस्ट है वो ये देखते हैं किस तरह से उस डोमिनेंट आइडियोलॉजी के होते हुए भी सबवर्जन हुआ या फिर डिसिडेंस हुआ, वो वॉइसेस जो हैं उनको एक्सप्लोर करना. नाउ आउट ऑफ दीज थ्री फैक्ट्स, only first and second, only first and third, second and third, all of the above. Friends, my purpose behind designing such type of question is that this is the pattern what you will witness in your NET paper. इसी ढंग से NET paper में आएंगे. They will make your task tougher by giving you more options. You can think about, okay, this I know but I am not sure about the other two. So that is why you should exercise all these kind of things. And yes, this one is an easy one. All of the above statement are valid regarding the differences between the approach of new historicism and cultural materialism. Okay, moving towards next question. This is another very we can say frequently used formula of NET question, that matching the column. Here I have made two columns. One is about books that are related with cultural study theory, and obviously second column is writer or editor of that particular book. So first one is radical tragedy, second is subject of tragedy, third is alternative Shakespeare's, and fourth is political Shakespeare. All these texts are related with either cultural materialism or new historicism. Most of in fact related with new historicism. So you may have idea. देखिए बड़े बड़े नाम हैं, जोनाथन डॉलिमोर और एलन सिनफील्ड, they are almost synonymous with new historicism. Then there is Catherine Belzev, one very leading forefront critic related with new historicism. And these two editors, John Drekakis and Terence Hawkes, ये दोनों हैं. चलिए मैच मैं यहीं आपको करा देता हूँ. ऑब्वियसली रेडिकल ट्रेजेडी, इट इज रिटन बाय जोनाथन डॉलिमोर. सब्जेक्ट ऑफ ट्रेजेडी इज बाय कैथरीन बेल्सले. देन वी हैव ऑल्टरनेटिव शेक्सपियर्स. अब थोड़ा सा आइडिया आप लगाएं. दोनों ही बेसिकली एक एडिटेड बुक है, कलेक्शन ऑफ एसेज हैं. पॉलिटिकल शेक्सपियर एंड अल्टरनेटिव शेक्सपियर. चलिए देखते हैं ऑप्शन क्या क्या हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये भी ट्रिक होती है कि यू मे नो अबाउट टू आंसर्स एंड टू ऑप्शंस. तो देखिए, इफ वी नो फर्स्ट बी एंड सेकंड डी, देखिए फर्स्ट बी एंड सेकंड डी, देयर इज ओनली वन लेफ्ट. दिस इज वन ऑफ द ट्रिक्स विद विच यू कैन एंश्योर योर आंसर. केवल एक यही है जो इन दो क्राइटेरिया को फुलफिल करता है. इनफैक्ट you can see, केवल आपको एक भी ये पता हो, then it is very easy to crack. Okay, I'm sorry, this is okay, yes, it's this one. First one is B, obviously. I'm sorry, related with this. Yes, first one B and second D. Okay, third A and C you can do with it. Okay. Moving over to our next question, and that is, there is no single unproblematic definition of culture. The concept remains a complex one, a site of convergent interests rather than a logically or conceptually clarified idea. Once again, a very famous definition of culture. This time we have four names: Raymond Williams, Stuart Hall, Theodore Adorno, and Umberto Eco. Okay, this time the answer is Stuart Hall once again. He gave this famous idea, and you must remember these words: a site. Any culture is a site of convergent interest rather than logically or conceptually clarified idea. It means there is always mingling and clashing of culture and subculture, minor culture, counterculture. All these are converging at one particular site, and then emerges a dominant one. Alternative sciences, creativity and authenticity in two Indian scientists is a landmark work in South Asian cultural studies. It presents the biographies of two most eminent Indian scientists with an analysis of the emotional, social and cultural environment of traditional India. The writer of this book is, now this book, it talks about Ramanujan and J.C. Bose. I hope I am correct at this time, but I think these two scientists are studied, and the writer studied them not from their scientific or biographical, but rather the background, cultural and social background, which helped or detoured their researches. All these are discussed, और ये साउथ एशियन कल्चरल स्टडीज के बहुत ही एमिनेंट स्कॉलर है। डीएल सेठ, जीत सिंह ओबराय, आशीष नंदी और एजाज अहमद। Okay, I don't think there is no much need to guess. It is Ashish Nandi. He is sometimes referred to as the father of South Asian cultural studies. It is he is the writer of this very important book. French Marxist philosopher Louis Althusser discussed the role of ideological state apparatuses. This is ISA. Okay, ISA, which means institutes like churches, schools, family, religion, and other entities, they function through ideologies. These apparatuses provide a particular identity to people by making it sound natural. This process, that we consider the ideology or the dominant ideology as a natural one, as something which we should not question, ये process, इस process का term क्या है? I must tell you friends, in fact to my young friends, it is one of the key terms और जो काफ़ी ज़्यादा chance हैं पूछे जाने के. The four options being hegemony, alienation, structuration or interpellation. Yes friends, the answer is interpellation. Interpellation is the process by which the common public consider the dominant ideology as the natural one. Okay, Julian Stewart uses this term for a methodology for understanding how humans adapt to wide variety of environments. Now this term it is another very important term. In fact, a subfield area of study for cultural studies is it cultural ecology, habitus, cultural adaptation and anomy. Once again, I must point to you that when after I told you answer, we discuss this term, you should go through the other three terms. Okay, the answer for this particular question is cultural ecology. How human beings adapt to wide variety of environments. So friends, these are some basic questions. They are only 10 questions. Very soon we are coming with new questions. I must request you to focus on these questions. These are very important one. Not only their answer, but also try to find out what the other terms or writers, what they have contributed to the field of cultural studies. I hope you are liking these videos. I am working to make it worth your time, and your suggestions are always welcome. Thank you, friends.
Hello friends, welcome once again to your own channel, virtual learning platform YouTube, and it is Lit eCity, where we are trying to understand the concepts of literature, and our basic focus at present is on the upcoming NET exam. Friends, I have already uploaded one video regarding some important questions that I consider are important from point of view of the coming exam, and this is the second video. Here we will discuss some more questions about cultural studies. All of you who are preparing for this exam, you know very well that cultural studies is recently added into the curriculum of our NET exam, and obviously our awareness towards this topic is not as much as those earlier topics. My focus, friends, is to put some questions. First thing I must mention that these questions are totally made by me based on my reading of some important books related with cultural studies. It is about Stuart Hall and obviously Ziauddin Sarkar, then Pramod Nair, and I have composed these questions keeping in mind that not only you solve the question, not only I have followed closely the pattern which is generally asked in exam, but also you come to know, you become aware about the issues that are generally related with cultural studies. So let us start the second part of our series, QTM, questions that matter. And I repeat again and again, just don't focus on the answers. जितने भी alternatives हैं, focus on them, read about them, study yourself. Friends, no institute, no guide, no platform can prepare for the NET as yourself studies it. You can vouch this fact by talking to those persons who have cleared the NET. Okay, so here is our first question of this second series. Philippe Bourdieu's concept of cultural capital, it refers to, this is the name of a concept, cultural capital. Now we have two sentences. A group whose values and norms of behavior follow those of the social dominant of the day. First thing is a sentence that cultural capital means a group who is basically socially dominant. The second one is the collection of symbolic elements such as skills, tastes, posture, clothing, mannerism, material belongings, credentials, etc., that one acquires through being part of a particular social class. Now we have these two statements and we have to find out what actually cultural capital refers to. Okay, if we look at the options, first is obviously both first and second. It means cultural capital refers to both socially dominant class and the acquisition. Second, the first one only. Third one, the second one only, and obviously the last one, neither A nor second. Now what is your guess? Take your time before I make the answer. Once again you can look at the slide, which one you think refers to this concept of cultural capital. Okay friends, let's find out what is the, देखिए मैं चाहता तो डायरेक्ट आंसर लिख सकता था, but this is the pattern to make you ponder upon all the options available. Generally नेट में इस तरह से आपको थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूज कर दिया जाता है. Okay, this time answer is only second. Yes friends, it is only this one, that the collection of symbolic elements which make basically culture, how you acquire taste, skills and postures, they are known as cultural capital. Okay, let's move forward towards our next question, and that is, the term the art world is used in context of aesthetics, that how without the help of the community of critics, art curators, artists and collectors within galleries and museums, it is impossible to understand the art of the contextual art of the modern world. Who coined this term? देखिए, I have also explained, it is not just this question who coined that term art world, that would have been easier, but I wanted that you should understand what basically this term the art world means, कि किस तरह से जो कम्युनिटी है क्रिटिक्स की, जिसके अंदर क्यूरेटर्स हैं, आर्टिस्ट्स हैं, कलेक्टर्स हैं, दे आर आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ दैट सिस्टम, एंड विदाउट देयर हेल्प वी कैन नॉट हैव द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द मॉडर्न आर्ट. वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट who coined this term art world, and your options are, friends, Philip Bourdieu, Emily Durkheim, Arthur Danto and Anthony Giddens. Now these options, they all are very eminent cultural critics, scholars who have given different concepts, even new terms related with cultural studies. Okay, without taking any more time, let's go for the answer, and friends, the answer is Arthur Danto. Arthur Danto gave this term, which is the art world. He basically made it clear that it is the effort of all the community, it is basically the whole circle which help us to understand the modern art. Okay, let's move to question number 3 for the day. This one is quite important, my friends, and please pay focus what is said in this question. First used by the French social anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss in The Savage Mind. This is the name of the essay, okay, and this is the name of the writer of this essay. 1966 में this term implies how an artist shapes the beautiful and useful out of the dump heap of human life. Okay, you understand that out of dump heap, discarded elements of human life, an artist has the ability to shape something beautiful and something useful. Now this particular term, when it is used in cultural studies, it refers to the process by which elements are appropriated. If you are studying post-colonialism, cultural studies, appropriation is a very important term from the dominant culture and their meaning transform. You got what it basically means? Okay, this term implies the process by which the culture which is not dominant, which is basically exploited, which is minor or counterculture, it takes certain elements from the dominant culture and make adjustment, appropriation according to their utility, according to their use. Originally this term was used by this French anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss and the name of the essay was The Savage Mind. Okay friends, we are talking about which term? Okay, the first one is bricolage, then pastiche, my theme and intertextuality. I must say all 4 terms are very important, and out of these 4 question can be asked for any term. I suggest that you should have the proper knowledge of all these terms. Okay, this particular question जो क्लॉड स्ट्रॉ ने दी थी और जो इस appropriation के काम आती है, I hope most of you know the answer. If you are working on it, Yes, friends, it is bricolage. Bricolage is using older or dominant element and making something new out of it. That is known as bricolage. Okay, I leave it to you people to understand what is the meaning of pastiche, my theme, and intertextually. They are equally important concepts when we consider our exam. Okay, moving forward to our next question. This one again very important, and it has been asked many times in their forward to the first edition of the book Political Shakespeare, one of the most important texts in the postmodern theory. These are the editors Dallimore and Sinfield gave this definition. Okay, the definition is a combination of historical context, theoretical method, political commitment, and textual analysis. This is the definition. Definition is this particular concept is a combination of historical context, theoretical method, political commitment, and textual analysis. They gave this definition and they used for this term, and you have to identify. Okay, this one a bit tricky because all are very closely related to each other. Is it cultural materialism, new historicism, cultural studies, or intertextuality? Once again, let's go to the definition. Combination, historical context, theoretical method, political commitment, or textual analysis का. Which among these suits this definition? Okay, this one is quite easy one. I hope जो नए students हैं who have just finished their post graduation, they might find it difficult, but those who are preparing and have already given exam once or twice, I hope they understand these basic terms. Yes friends, it is new historicism. Okay, this term is very closely related with cultural materialism. Both have quite common elements, but have also their differences. We have already discussed in our earlier chapter. Okay friends, I must take a break and tell you that if you are looking for these things and if you are liking these lessons, I hope you are going through my other videos also. I again and again request you people to suggest me on which topic we should try to and make videos so that it can help you also, and it may be worthy of your precious time. Okay, moving forward, our next question. To criticize the policies of the then ruling party, this eminent cultural study critic coined the term Thatcherism. Obviously, it comes from the Prime Minister of the Britain of that time, Margaret Thatcher. Thatcherism. It was basically used as a term to criticize her policies. We are thinking about the name of this critic who basically coined this term Thatcherism to criticize the policies. Okay, was it Raymond Williams? Was it Donna Haraway? Was it Stuart Hall or Eugen Habermas? You have to find out, and if you know this particular critic, if you have read the biography of this critic, you must understand he was one of the very vociferous critic of Margaret Thatcher's policies. Yes friends, he is Stuart Hall, who sometimes we call him father of cultural studies, and he is a very prominent name in this field of cultural studies. In our last upload, we have already discussed questions related with Stuart Hall, and without reading about Stuart Hall and his theories, our understanding of cultural studies is definitely incomplete. So I must suggest that you should very carefully go through his important critical concepts. Okay, moving forward. Yes, this one is quite an emerging field and field of quite an I hope this is basically my idea that you are going to find this question or something related to it in the paper, so focus on it. The field of cyber culture is the most emergent one in the recent years. The terms cyberpunk and cyberspace are coined by a famous sci-fi writer. Name of this writer is, okay, both the term cyberpunk, which is about the genre of fiction related with this particular field, and cyberspace, all these things related with the internet and other related areas, they both are coined by a famous sci-fi writer and a story by him. Have you any idea? देखिए, all these names, all these are known as sci-fi writers, but we have to identify who has used this term cyberpunk for the first time. Okay friends, it is William Gibson. Yes friends, Arthur Clarke, Ray Bradbury, Philip Dick, they all are very important writers. I suggest you should go through at least their works, what they are writing about. Okay, if we talk about this particular question, William Gibson is the person who wrote a short story, and in that story he first used this term cyberpunk and cyberspace. Okay, moving forward, our next question is once again related with cyber, and it is now about cyber feminism, a cyber manifesto. Science, technology and socialist feminism in the late 20th century. It is basically a path-breaking work in the recent feminist studies and become a pioneer work in the field of cyber feminism. Okay, how many of you have heard this term cyber feminism? If no, go through it today. It is of cardinal importance. Okay, who is the writer of this work? If you don't remember the complete name, at least remember this first type, a cyber manifesto. This one is very important friends, and we have 4 options: Dana Haraway, Nancy Peterson, Gayatri Spivak or Radhika Gajala. All 4 are related with new trends in feminist theories, and you must know what they are doing, what is their field of research. For our present, our answer friends is Donna Haraway. She is a key figure in cyber feminism in the latest trends of feminism. Okay, our next question, very easy one. Okay, the question is, who among these is not associated with the Frankfurt School? Now the Frankfurt School Germany में established एक school था, Marxist इसकी leaning थी, leftist एक group था, and it discussed many ideas related with the culture and literature, reading of the literature. तो देखिए कौन कौन इसके अंदर है, थियोडोर एडॉर्नो, हर्बर्ट मार्कस, वाल्टर बेंजामिन एंड स्टुअर्ट हॉल. हमें आइडेंटिफाइड करना है ऑड वन आउट, हु अमंग दीज इज नॉट रिलेटेड विद दिस Frankfurt School. I think it is quite an easy one. You will find out. Yes friends, it is Stuart Hall who was associated with Birmingham School, and these all three are related with the Frankfurt School. Okay, moving forward, the Frankfurt School. So friends, you can understand the importance. I have already picked third question. One question was in our first part, and this last question, and this one. The Frankfurt School scholars used basic Marxist concepts to analyze the social relations within capitalist economic systems. Okay, Marxist concepts को use किया social relation is capitalist system के अंदर. This one is quite good question my friends. The reason I will tell you that it will make you confused if you are not aware about the Frankfurt School. You could easily be misled about with the options cultural materialism, obviously Raymond Williams, new historicism we have just read about, critical theory and Marxist cultural theory. देखिए फ्रेंड्स, if you have no idea, I hope you will spare this option cultural theory because you will critical theory because you will think it's a general key term or umbrella term, and you will either go for Marxist or cultural materialism, which is quite closely the definition. But friends, yes, this is known as critical theory. Okay, you must now understand, keep it in your mind that Frankfurt School and critical theory, they are closely related to each other. I have this gut feeling that you are going to be asked or tested on this particular concept. Okay, our next question and the last question for today's video is, who coined the term ideology to refer to the science of ideas? Frankly, friends, it is not directly related to literature, but I thought that it is a good thing that you should know who gave this term. Destutt de Tracy, Louis Althusser, Gramsci or Max Weber. We have 4 options, and yes, this is easy pick if you have some ideas that how to pick something which sounds an odd. It is a trick. I should not say that you must always follow this trick, but sometimes it helps that if you find some name which is rather unusual sounding, then there are chances that it may be the answer, and it is so. In this case, it is Destutt de Tracy who coined the term ideology. Okay, friend, this was our lesson today. We again discussed 10 questions. I hope you find these questions interesting and they have created some awareness in you about the field of cultural studies. I hope you will explore all 40 options. Okay, there may be some repetition, so at least 30 to 35 options are there. You should read about them. If you have some resource books, if you have some guidebooks, if you have some teacher to follow, and otherwise we all have internet where you can go and search about them. Keep watching, my friends. Basically it's your Lit is City, the channel where you can find everything under the sky related with English literature. Yes, we are trying to incorporate as many things as possible in our brief time, and I once again request you to suggest me which type of topics you would like to share with me. And if you need some PDF, for example this question bank or notes related to it, you can WhatsApp to me at 988-755-9339, and we will see what we can do in that matter. So that's all for today. Thank you, friends. Hello and welcome once again all my young friends at your own channel for English literature, that is Lit E City. Friends, as you all know, these days we are working on special sections and especially focusing on the upcoming NET exam. Cultural studies, this is the latest addition in the syllabi already, which is very large syllabus. The committee has decided to include cultural studies. For past 2 or 3 attempts in NET, we have seen that the questions related with cultural studies are getting more and more prominence. Keeping this in my mind, I have made this series QTM, or questions that matter, and in this series at present we are working on cultural studies MCQs. Okay, so friends, मैं आपको last जो episodes हैं, I have already told you that these questions are not taken, copied and pasted and all that usual stuff. They are basically composed, they are basically selected by me on the basis of last year papers and my reading in the cultural studies of some certain important books like that of Pramod Nair sir and Simon During, Ziauddin Sarkar, and I have made these questions in such a format that not only you get to know about the important concepts but also learn about what are some important writers and concepts. 2 एपिसोड ऑलरेडी हम 20 क्वेश्चंस को डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. नाउ दिस इज टाइम फॉर द थर्ड इंस्टॉलमेंट, 10 another questions, and I can almost assure you that you will find these questions, writers or concept very certainly in your upcoming paper. So without wasting any more time in introduction, let's roll to our first question, friends. And this question is basically one of the very popular formats which is asked in a NET exam, that is matching columns. And what you have to do, you have to match these famous books on cultural studies with their writers. When I use this term writers, I obviously mean both writers and sometimes it include editors too. So first book is Dialectic of Enlightenment. Now friends, this is very important text related with cultural studies, and I hope all of you who are very earnestly preparing for this particular attempt, they should know about this Dialectic of Enlightenment. Second book, my friends, is Aesthetic Theory. Now aesthetic theory, many writers right from time of Longinus have worked on it, and it is still going on. The debate is going on what should be counted in aesthetics and what should not. Towards a Rational Society, it is rather a relevant and new work, and One Dimensional Man. These four books, and you options हैं वो है Eugen Habermas, Theodor Adorno, Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno, and Herbert Marcus. So these four option you have to match. अगर देखिए ये एक सिंपल ट्रिक है. आई होप मेरे से बेटर आप नए स्कॉलर्स हैं, यू नो दीज ट्रिक्स, कि अगर आपको किसी एक या दो बुक के बारे में कंफर्मेशन होता है, यू शुड गो फॉर इट. चलिए ऑप्शंस देखें. फर्स्ट बी, सेकंड ए, थर्ड डी, फोर्थ सी, बी सी डी, ए सी बी, ए डी एंड सी डी बी सी. लेट्स सी कि देखिए सबसे ज़्यादा हमें जो एस्थेटिक थियरी, ये काफ़ी पॉपुलर बुक है फ्रेंड्स, और एस्थेटिक थियरी के जो राइटर हैं वो एडोर्नो है. दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कॉमन बुक. देखिए सेकंड का बी, कौन कौन सा ऐसा ऑप्शन है? देयर इज़ आई थिंक ओनली वन ऑप्शन, दैट इज सी. तो कोई इसमें दिक्कत वाली बात रहती ही नहीं है. व्हेन यू हैव दिस ओनली वन ऑप्शन वेयर इट इज सेड दैट this book combination meets, so that's why. And now you can see first C, third A and 4D. First Dialectic of Enlightenment, it is basically edited by these two persons. Towards a Rational Society, it is once again by Habermas, and One Dimensional Man, it is by Herbert Marcus. So these are some books. Okay, going for our next question, that is friends, queer theory, lesbian and gay sexualities. It was published in 1991 in the Feminist Cultural Studies journal Differences, and it gave to the title, very important field of studies these days, queer theory. Now we have to identify who wrote this article in this magazine. So now you have three important information. First, the name of this article or essay, queer theory, lesbian and gay sexualities. Second, in which journal it was published? It was published in Differences. It was because of this article we have this name, queer theory. Now we have to identify third important thing, who is the writer of this article, whether it is Judith Butler, the most prominent name in queer theory, Gail Rubin, Eve Kosowski-Sedgwick, once again she is a very important critic related with queer theory, or Teresa de Lauretis. देखिए इन सब के अंदर, डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज्ड, यस दीज आर वेरी पॉपुलर नेम, दीज टू आर, आई होप all of you have heard about this, but at present our answer is friends Teresa de Lauretis. It was she who wrote this article, and because of her article that we have this term queer theory. Okay, moving forward to our next question friends, one of the founding editors of Public Culture. Public Culture is name of an important journal in cultural and social studies, especially in Southern Asia. and he is also a writer of this very, very popular and important book, The Social Life of Things, Commodities in Cultural Perspective. 1986 के अंदर ये बुक पब्लिश हुई थी. दिस स्कॉलर इज नोन फॉर हिज वर्क इन media and cultural studies. He belongs to Southern Asian cultural studies, which is a hot spot of cultural studies for past 2 decades. आपको बताना है, देखिए 2 चीज़ें वापिस से 3 important information. First is public culture. It is name of a journal which is related with cultural and social studies, so you must know about this public culture. Second, the social life of things, commodities in cultural perspective. This is name of a book which was published in 1986. Now your options are Ashish Nandi, Arjun Appadurai, Ejaz Ahmed or Ziauddin Sarkar. All 4 are very much talked about, written about in cultural studies arena, and correct answer for this particular question, friend, is Arjun Appadurai, who is a scholar of cultural studies, and he has his special field of interest in the Southern Asian cultural studies. Okay, so I hope you will remember this name, Arjun Appadurai. Who knows, you will find him in one of the questions asked in your NET exam. Okay friends, moving forward now from our eastern part, we move to the western part and to the America. The first first African American president of Modern Language Association. देखिए अमेरिका के अंदर मॉडर्न लैंग्वेज MLA मॉडर्न लैंग्वेज एसोसिएशन है. दिस पर्सन हु ह्यूस्टन बेकर जूनियर, ही वाज द फर्स्ट अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ दिस एसोसिएशन. ही इज वाइडली recognized as one of the most prolific and important African American scholars. This work by him, now you have to identify a work. Which work? Which is basically a study of connection between music, especially folk music, literature and black culture. Okay, these all 4 books, these are written by Houston Baker. He is a very important name in Afro-American studies, and he has basically promoted the native African art, and he has also talked about the marginalized sections of Africans in American society. This particular book is a very interesting read, friends, in which he has talked about the native element in African American community. Okay, the name of the book and the answer is Singers of Daybreak. This is the book in which he has find out the connections between folk music, literature and black culture. Okay, moving ahead, we have very important definition. Gender is the, I hope ये question मुझे explain ना करना पड़े, it is of such great importance, all of you must know about it. Gender is the repeated stylization of the body. Now this line itself is very important. Repeated stylization of the body, a set of repeated acts within a highly rigid regulatory frame that congeal over time to produce the appearance of substance of a natural sort of being. I hope you got it, that what basically decides something is that gender की definition दी है जूडिथ बटलर ने, और इसी की वजह से जूडिथ बटलर का नाम जेंडर स्टडीज़ के इस कॉन्सेप्ट से जोड़ा जाता है. इन चारों में से हमें आइडेंटिफाई करना है. एक बार फिर से फॉर योर क्लैरिफिकेशन, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दिस डेफिनेशन दैट जेंडर इज, पहले देयर वाज अ डिस्कशन, अ डिबेट दैट बेसिकली सेक्स इज बायोलॉजिकल डिटरमाइंड एंड जेंडर इज अ सोशल कंस्ट्रक्ट. कुछ इस तरह की बात. शी इज ऑल्सो डूइंग सेम टॉक एंड शी इज सेइंग दैट जेंडर इज what we repeatedly perform, what we repeatedly do again and again in a strictly regulatory frame, that is society. Congeal over time, it becomes habitual, it becomes part and parcel of our daily routine, and it gives the appearance that it is a natural sort of being, it is a normal kind of thing. One who doesn't do these particular performance, they are considered to be the abnormals or queer. So जेंडर के साथ जुड़ा हुआ ये जो परफॉर्मेंस है, इसकी वजह से नाउ द आंसर इज क्वाइट easy one. It is known as performativity. Other terms, queerness, écriture feminine and lesbian continuum, all these terms, especially these two terms, are also very important. I suggest that you should also understand, you should also read about these terms. Okay, our next question, friends, once again देखिए, by basically giving this question, my purpose is twofold. Not only to tell you the idea for especially those who are giving the NET paper for the first time, but also to tell you about some important books, rather than just saying who is the writer of this book and 4 options. I think this is a much better idea to always have this column matching, which will allow you to practice. Okay, this time we have books related with queer and disability studies. My friends, you will be thinking that why I have included queer questions into cultural studies. So I must tell you that queer studies, though it's a separate field of study, it's a separate theoretical framework, but still it is quite common with the phenomena, with the apparatuses of cultural studies. Okay, so these are some books which are related with queer and disability studies. You have to identify the correct matching. First, the name of books are Exile and Pride, Crypt Theory, Cultural Science of Queerness and Disability, Epistemology of the Closet, very popular book, and Gender Trouble. I hope all of you, especially who have already given NET or who have joined some coaching or reading some books, you should know about these 2 books. Not only the titles, but the gist, but the summary of these 2 books must be known to you people. And the options are Eve Sedgwick, Judith Butler, Ellie Clare, and Robert McCrory. So our options, friends, are first D, second C, third A, 4B, C, D. Okay, what we can do, we know almost with certainty that Gender Trouble, it is written by Judith Butler. Epistemology of the Closet, it is written by E. Sedgwick. So you have third A and fourth B. Let's see the options. Third A and 4B. Okay, now this one is tough one because we have 2 similar options. Either you have to know the third answer or you have to make a wild guess. In this case, it is first C, the book related with disability studies. Exile and Pride, it is written by Ellie Clare, and Crypt Theory, once again a book related with disability studies, it is written by Robert McCrory. Okay friends, moving forward to our next question. Impossible Desires, Queer Diasporas and South Asian Public Cultures. As the name suggests, it focuses on the previously ignored female queer diasporic subject. These all are emerging new fields where the writers are talking about marginalized and double marginalized subjects. Writer of this books, now these names, Jasbir Pua, Gayatri Spivak, Gayatri Gopinath and Shyam Selvadurai. All these are working on diaspora, all these are working on feminism, all these are also working on queer and colonial, post-colonial discourses. So maybe these names are new, but I hope now you have known the name. देखिए फ्रेंड्स, एक बात मैं आपको हमेशा कहना चाहूँगा कि ये जो ऑप्शंस है फ्रेंड्स, these options you must not only think about the answer, you must not hasten to look at the answer, but you should try to note down all the options and then search by yourself about these options, why I have included these options. And one more request, देखिए आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा if you are watching these videos, if you are liking the stuff, you should give a like button, you should press the like button to the these videos, so that I can understand that I am going on the right direction. I need this support from you people, and also your suggestions how to make these videos better, what should I include and what should I avoid. Okay, talking about the answer, friends, it is Gayatri Gopinath. She is a very young scholar and she has written about the queer diasporic subject. Okay, so friends, moving forward to our next question. Credited with bringing the oppression of women and lesbian to the forefront of poetic discourse, famous American poet has written the essay. It is one of the cardinal essays, Compulsory Heterosexuality and Lesbian Existence. This is the name of the essay. I can tell you that this essay is so important. You can find it directly as a Christian to inspire change about lesbian visibility and to discuss the role of literary criticism in relationship to lesbianism. The name of this writer is, whether it is Adrian Rich, Sylvia Plath, Sarah Ahmed or Barbara Smith. You may have heard or you may have read about these two names, Adrian Rich and Sylvia Plath, and I suggest also try to find out about these two writers. At present, friends, our answer is Adrian Rich. She is one of the earliest advocates of visibility to lesbianism. Okay, our next question says, and this one is very important also, interpretation is shaped by a complex of relationships between the text, the reader. Look out, किन किन के बीच में ये relationship होता है. It is between the text, the reader, reading, writing, printing, publishing and history. Which history? The history that is inscribed in the language of the text and the history that is carried in the reader's reading. Both type of histories, from the writer's side and from the reader's side. So it's a interpretation is not a simple reading and getting the meaning, writing or generating the meaning. It is a complex set where text, reader, reading, writing, how it is printed, how it is published, what are the history of publication, what is the history of publication, all these things. Such a history has been given a name by the Bulgarian French philosopher and psychoanalyst Julia Kristeva. Once again a very important name in post-structuralist critical theory. और ये term क्या हो सकती है? देखिए, again 4 very important terms: hyperreality, simulacra, intertextuality or hypertextuality. Friends, please try to read and understand these concepts. I am planning to make a quiz, make some questions on post-structuralist theory. Also, please suggest me किन topics पर हम ये question बनाएं, so that आपके वो काम आ सके. Okay, answer for this is obviously, I hope many of you already know about this. It is intertextuality. Okay, friends. Last question for today's lesson. According to Ronald Barthes, when we start to treat a connotative sign as a denotations and thereby accepting them as if they were natural or unchanged, we start to create. I hope you get the meaning. There are basically connotative signs, then we start to treat them as denotative. Connotative is mere suggestive. It is not directly related, but it is suggestive, while denotative is directly. So कभी कभी क्या होता है, when it is just a connotation after a long time, जिसको कभी कभी हम, though it does not apply exactly, हम dead metaphor भी बोल सकते हैं. when metaphor lost its metaphoricality, तब हम एक चीज़ क्रिएट करते हैं जिस टर्म को उन्होंने नाम दिया, ऑप्शन से अपने पास सिंबल और मिथ और टेक्स्ट और मेटाफर. रोनाल्ड बार्थे का ये मानना था कि समटाइम्स इट हैपन्स कि हम इतना ज़्यादा उस साइन को यूज़ करते हैं दैट इट बिकम्स ऑलमोस्ट डेनोटेटिव। ओके फ्रेंड्स, it is myth, it is very important, it becomes myth। देखिए there are so many discussions at present going on in the world, which is also known as post-truth world, where we say that we are once again treating connotative into denotative। Okay friends, this was our lecture today. I hope you are feeling you are getting this vibe that these questions are important. I once again request you to come watch and like your own channel Lit E-City, where you will find different lessons related with literature. We have discussed about the poet, some important text, and we will continue to do so. It's our common basically ground related with literatures. More questions related with cultural studies, we will try to make videos. And if you are interested in PDF of these lessons, if you are interested in material related with these basically cultural study notes, you can WhatsApp me at this particular number. And friends, I once again only make one request, that please like my videos if you find them good one. Thank you friends. Hello young friends, I Saurabh Agrawal once again welcome you all at this virtual platform of learning YouTube at your own channel of English literature, that is Lit E-City. Friends, we are at present working on certain quizzes, and especially for last 3 videos I have uploaded a quiz on cultural studies. Friends, cultural studies is a very important topic, especially if you are a NET aspirant. As you all know, who are especially preparing for this exam, that in recent examination, the focus and the weightage to cultural studies have been more prominent than other topics. And keeping these all points in mind, I have tried to make certain questions. I have studied the pattern which is generally used by the NET examiners and try to formulate these questions so that you can have some basic knowledge about how questions can be asked on this topic. We have already done almost 30 questions in our previous lessons, video lessons, and in today's topic we will further discuss 10 more questions on this topic. And I hope these questions will help you not only to understand the important concepts and major writers associated with the field of cultural studies, but also you will be able to focus on certain key points. It is very necessary. You all know that our syllabus is almost inexhaustible. We can't cover it completely. So especially for NET students, not for the researchers, for NET students it is a point of quintessential importance that they should know what to read and what to avoid during their preparation. All these questions I have prepared keeping into mind these important factors. So friends, let's roll and start the 4th installment of this particular we can say section, that is our cultural quiz. Okay friends, our first question on cultural studies is the concept of speech act theory. Speech act theory, in contrast with the traditional constitutive theory of language, is given by this British philosopher. Okay friends, just like the last quiz, even in this quiz I have included questions related with various we can say topics. Linguistics is also there, social linguistics, and obviously feminism and queer theory. The reason behind this inclusion is that cultural studies cover, it is not basically a very closely defined, or we can say a limiting kind of topic. Cultural studies is a sort of an umbrella term under which we study a lot of different scopes, different studies, linguistic being one among them. So this question is about speech act theory. Who gave this concept of a speech act theory, which was totally against, which was in contrast with the traditional constitutive theory of language? Now we have these four options: Noam Chomsky, J.L. Austin, G.E. Moore, and H.A. Pritchard. Friends, all these four are prominent linguistics of 20th century, and I hope all of these have been covered by you, their major concepts, especially Pritchard, Chomsky, and J.L. Austin. They are forerunner of the modern linguistic. And if you don't know the answer, okay, let's go for it. It is J.L. Austin, speech act theory, or another important term associated with Austin is the performative theory. You should read about it because it is the base of many further theoretical paradigms. Okay, our next question, friends, it's very important one. Please go pay focus on it. Giving example of Disneyland, Jean Baudrillard gave the concept that stands for something that replaces reality with its representation. Please try to understand, it is one of the cardinal concept of postmodernism. In fact, it is through the theory of Baudrillard that we have the postmodernist theory. So Jean Baudrillard is one of those writers which we have to study thoroughly to understand what is basically postmodernism. Now, what is the question saying? That he give example of Disneyland, and he says that something that replaces reality. Now, reality is replaced with the representation. Do you got the point? We don't have reality anymore. Instead, we have just a representation and its copies of the representation. You can understand it by the example of a photocopier machine. Okay, the first copy which we do photocopy, we take an original and then we have a photocopy of it. But you can further photocopy this already copied thing. We do not need the original, something like that. In other words, he is talking not about imitation. Why? Because imitation always implies presence of original. Something which is imitated is always present, but an image without the original. And this concept, my friends, it is known as hyperreal, simulacra, virtual, or imaginarium. Now, out of these three terms are closely related with Baudrillard himself. He is a very, we can say, controversial kind of thinker, and he proposes some ideas that shocks the world. For example, he gave this concept that Gulf War didn't happen. This is one of most controversial statement made by Jean Baudrillard, that Gulf War didn't happen. Okay, we are talking about this question, and answer, my friend, is obviously simulacra. Simulacra is something which is a copy of something which we don't have, or the original, and he says that we are living in a world where we only find simulacra. It's a very thought provoking idea, and I suggest you all should try to understand this concept, to understand the postmodern condition. Okay. Moving forward to our next question, my friends, it says that all humans are born with an innate capacity for language, and that this capacity shapes the rules for what is considered correct grammar in a language. Okay, This theory of grammar is forwarded by Noam Chomsky, and he called it. Basically, what Chomsky is saying that we all have an innate capacity, an innate capability for language. We do not require a program. We have this kind of capacity, and this capacity has basically universal rules. That is why all languages share certain common feature. This concept is forwarded, this concept is promoted by Noam Chomsky. He called this grammar, this universal grammar, whether it is generative grammar or prescriptive, descriptive or performative grammar. These four terms, out of these four terms, one term applies, and it is very closely associated with Noam Chomsky, and basically I hope that you all know this. This is rather an easy question, and friends, the answer for this question, we can say this universal grammar is obviously generative grammar. Okay friends, moving ahead, we have our next question. Okay, this is about a quite recent development, in the theoretical field after the queer theory, which is again study of either to marginalized sections. We have disabled studies. Probably the most important theoretical book in the disability studies. Now, the disability studies is quite a recent field of study. The disability studies canon is Stigma. The name of the book is Stigma. It's a very path-breaking work, and writer, you have to find out, you have to guess the name of the writer of this book, and this book is considered as the pioneering work in the disability studies, whether it is Tom Shakespeare, Leonard Davis, Michel Foucault or Erving Goffman. These four are options, and I must tell you, all these four writers are associated somehow with disability studies. Obviously, you have heard about this man, Michel Foucault, who has studied a lot about the madness kind of, and he has also, Tom Shakespeare is one of another disabilities critic. But friends, writer of this book is Erving Goffman. He wrote this book Stigma, and he pointed out how difficult a life is for a disabled person, and he is also a marginalized person in his or her own capacity. Okay. The renowned feminist and theorist Ellen Showalter had also written about representation of women in popular culture. In one of her later works, she takes a personal look at a particular genre and its misrepresentation of women. Now, we all have heard name of Ellen Showalter. She is a part of curriculum in all kind of PG courses. Some of her essays are quite common, popular even with us. And now Ellen Showalter has written about, she has also written some very popular essays related with popular media, TV, culture, and this particular genre, and how it misrepresented women. Now you have to identify the work. Okay. Okay, just moving forward, like to remind you, if you find these videos worthy of your time, if you find that yes, these give you something to think about, to search about, and enhance your experience of NET, please upvote. And if you want PDFs of these quizzes, or if you want collected notes, you can WhatsApp me on this number 988-755-9339, and I will try to help you as much as possible. Okay, so moving forward with our question, my friends, and we have four options. All these four options are very important essays or books. First one is histories, historical epidemics and modern media. Faculty Towers, the academic novel and its discontents. teaching literature, one of the most popular and famous essays by Ellen Showalter, inventing herself, claiming a feminist intellectual heritage. Now, I have included all these essays which were written quite recently by Ellen Showalter, and yes, friends, the answer is Faculty Towers, the academic novel and its discontents. It's about the academic novel, as the title itself indicates, university novel, and how women is misrepresented in this novel. This is the basic theme of this particular work, and I would suggest you should also try to read about these three other works: Histories, Historical Epidemics and Modern Media, Teaching Literature. This is very popular, and this is almost a canonical text in American syllabi. Okay, moving for our next question, the aftermath of feminism. It is an important work in feminist cultural studies that presents an incisive, a sharp survey changes in film, television, popular culture, and the world of women's magazine. Now, the aftermath of feminism. It's a very important work, and the writer of this work discusses how it is projected that feminism has achieved its goals and now there is no more need, and how this feminism has created a very we can say artificial kind of a space for women, and how she is now presented as a successful entrepreneur in film, television or popular culture, which is another trap. This is what she is trying to say. So it's a kind of a new line into feminism, and these four options: Joanne Hollows, Jackie Stacey, Angela McRobbie and Rosalind Gill. All these are very prominent and at present working feminist theorists. And yes, friends, the answer is Angela McRobbie. She is a very prominent, she is not only an academician, but she is also a prominent feminist thinker. Okay, terms that gain popular currency like global village. We all now talk about this term global village, and another important dictum kind of line: the medium is the message. These are coined by the Canadian cultural theorist. Now, Canada has given us many important writers and theorists, and one among them has coined this term rather pejoratively, not in a very positive sense, and you have to find out. Options are Marshall McLuhan, Northrop Frye, Anthony Wilden and Frederick Jameson. One among them is a very, देखिए तीन जो नाम है, all three out of these four names are associated with one particular theory: Northrop Frye, myth criticism; Frederick Jameson, Marxist criticism; Anthony Wilden and Marshall McLuhan, these are cultural critic, and answer for this particular question is Marshall McLuhan. Okay, moving forward, our next question says this theoretical phenomena is used to describe the empowered women or public presence of women, and which is critically analyzed in works of writers like Rosalind Gill, Ellen J. Hall and Judith Butler. This theoretical concept, this theoretical approach is known as, now these are three writers associated with this neo approach, this new type of, we can say, approach in typical theoretical framework, and options are neo-feminism, girl power, radical feminism or post-feminism. Now let me first give you the answer. It is post-feminism, and it answers the question, do we need feminism or feminist framework anymore, because women is already empowered and women can be seen publicly. It is an open debate in which these writers and many other young writers participate to tell, yes, feminism is still needed. It is not yet, the question of equality is not yet settled and goals not yet achieved. So these are some important writers you should read about. Okay, under Western eyes, feminist scholarship and colonial discourse. It's a very we can say talked about book in academic circles. It offers an incisive critique of Western feminist scholarship as it discursively colonize and ghettoize non-Western third world women as the collective other. Now, this writer, she points out that how the Western feminism deals with the third world women and how they are collectively called the other. They are all the experiences of non-Western women are taken in one particular way and they all are treated as the other. Now, the writer of this particular book, she is a very popular name at present, and options are Chandra Talpade Mohanty, Nawala Sadhvi, Urvashi Botalia, or Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. Now, you must know this name. She is very active theorist at present. Answer, my friends, is Chandra Talpade Mohanty. Okay, moving ahead, our last question for this session. Match these works related with post-colonial feminism with their writers. Imperial Ladder, Race, Gender and Sexuality in the Colonial Contest. Second book is 3 Women's Texts and a Critique of Imperialism. Third text is The Other Side of Silence, and fourth text is Feminism Without Borders. Briefly, I should tell you about these books. Imperial Ladder, Race, Gender and Sexuality in the Colonial Contest. इस book के अंदर the writer talks about the complicated issues, interwoven issues of race, gender and sexuality from the Victorian England to the present England, and how the Asians were exploited. 3 Women's Text and a Critique of Imperialism is a reworking of Guber's book, in which it is presented how marginalized section like Bertha Mason, she is quite ignored, and how all these kind of things are presented. And once again, it is a focus on how the other women, non-Western women, are still marginalized through Western eyes. The Other Side of Silence is a book about the tragic history of partition, India and Pakistan partition story, and it is collection of anecdotes, stories and diaries, and the pain of the marginalized, the we can say Dalits, women's who are not generally talked about in the history books. Feminism Without Borders, it is collection of essays in which the writer talks about the new issues, the emerging issues related with feminism. And the 4 writers, Urvashi Botalia, Anne McClintock, Chandra Talpade Mohanty and Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. The option you have, okay, I will not go through it and I will just tell you the answers. Yes, okay. Imperial Ladder, this book is basically written by Anne McClintock. 3 Women's Text, and it is written by Gayatri Spivak. Then Other Side of Silence, it is by Urvashi Botalia. And Feminism, जिसके अंदर उनका Under Western Eyes first essay है, Feminism Without Borders. Okay friends. So friends, this is basically our lesson for the day, and these are the questions I have framed on cultural theory. If I find further good question, I will make another video on these. At present, I am working on some questions on literary theory. You can visit my channel Lit ECT whenever you think it is appropriate for you. There you will find videos related with writer, books, and I am trying to include whatever I can, whatever you request. And I also suggest always please contribute by pointing out on which topics should I try to make videos. That would be quite helpful for me. And thanks a lot for your support, and I need that, and we need to grow together. Thank you, friends.
Hello, my dear friends. We are once again here with a new quiz on cultural studies. Okay, friends, I need not tell you that how important cultural studies is in our preparation for the net. You all have noticed certainly that from last 2 or 3 times the focus on cultural studies is invariably much than other years. So I hope all of you are going through these texts, these important terms, और इन्हीं सब चीज़ों को ध्यान में रखते हुए I have earlier also prepared some questions, and this is in this brand new quiz I have dealt with certain new approaches in cultural studies and based my quiz on this particular new we can say developments in this field. So I hope you will enjoy this quiz. I also suggest that please go through all the text which I mentioned in this particular quiz so that you can have more background information regarding these texts. So without wasting any more time, let's start with our first question. And friends, our first question is Tartu Moscow Semiotic School. It is name of a particular school, name of a particular group, and it was formed in 1964, and it was established as a theoretical framework around the semiotics of culture. So it was one of the earliest schools which studied culture as a semiotic entity. I hope you understand by this particular phrase. Actually जो टार्टू मॉस्को लिंग्विस्ट ये जो स्कूल था, it studied that culture is also a basically collection of signs, and you have to tell me who is the leading foremost thinker of this school among these four. Was it Yuri Lotman, Rola Barthes, Roman Jacobson, or Mikhail Bakhtin? Friends, let me give you a hint. Out of these four, only one is not Russian, and obviously that is Roland Barthes. He is a French. These three, Yuri Lotman, Roman Jacobson, Mikhail Bakhtin, they all three are Russians, but related to Tartu Moscow Semiotic School, the foremost thinker is Yuri Lotman. Okay, so read about him, read how he treated culture as a semiotic entity and how he was basically he started this development which later developed into a full-fledged study. Okay, moving ahead with our second question. Who was the first scholar to introduce the theoretical concept of cultural materialism? I am very much sure that all of you have heard about this term. You may have read about this, and so obviously you know 2 or 3 names related with cultural materialism. लेकिन हम बात कर रहे हैं who was the first one to introduce this concept, who introduced this term particularly. Was it Raymond Williams? We all know how he is closely associated with cultural materialism. Was it Marvin Harris, who was a Marxist theorist, or was it Richard Hogarth, who was one of key members of the Birmingham School, or Frederick Engels, a close associate and collaborator of Karl Marx? सो आप लोगों को ये कोशिश करनी है, बताना है इनमें से किसने कल्चरल मटेरियलिज्म के कॉन्सेप्ट को ओरिजिनली इंट्रोड्यूस किया था. ओके, इफ यू थिंक इट इज रेमंड विलियम्स, द आंसर इज रॉन्ग. इट इज नॉट रेमंड विलियम्स. रेमंड विलियम्स ने इस कॉन्सेप्ट को बहुत बढ़िया ढंग से आगे डेवलप करा, बट इनिशियली इट वाज गिवन बाय Marvin Harris. Yes, this is the right answer. Marvin Harris was the philosopher who introduced this particular cultural materialism, which is basically what? It is basically reading and thinking about culture in the materialistic terms, or in other terms, it is a typical Marxist way of dealing with culture. Okay, with our third question, below are given some important texts related with the theoretical development of cultural materialism. Find out the book author pair which is not correctly matched. Okay, all these four books, these are considered very important books related with the studies of cultural materialism. In सारी books के अंदर जो writer हैं, they have treated the literature of Elizabethan age, and they have discussed how certain assumptions have been made by the authors in especially Elizabethan dramatists and Shakespeare also. आपको ये बताना है कौन सा जो पेयर है वो incorrectly matched है. Radical Tragedy, the name of the book and writer is Jonathan Dollimore. The subject of tragedy, Catherine Belsay. Alternative Shakespeare's, John Jacques, and political Shakespeare, Terence Hawkes. One among these is not correctly matched, और जो right answer है वो है political Shakespeare. It is not written by Terence Hawkes. In fact, Terence Hawkes was associated with the second edition of alternative Shakespeare. और जो पॉलिटिकल शेक्सपियर है इट इज़ वंस अगेन रिटन बाय जोनाथन डॉलीमोर. तो ये जो बुक्स हैं दीज आर वेरी की टेक्स्ट्स, एंड आई ऑलमोस्ट थिंक दैट सम ऑफ दीज टेक्स्ट मे बी आस्क्ड इन योर कमिंग पेपर, सो प्लीज पे मोर अटेंशन ऑन दीज वर्क्स एंड द राइटर्स. ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 4. bourgeois public sphere, they are the realm of public assemblies, pubs and literary salons where citizens gather to organize against oppressive forms of social and public authority. This concept of public sphere, it was developed by, okay, basically what this concept means कि जो public sphere होता है या सब cultures होती हैं, for example public assemblies, they may be of religious annotations, pubs where workmen basically they gather generally in the evening, literary salons where intellectual people basically sit and discuss on matters. According to this writer, these are particular we can say spheres. They are places where oppressive forms of social and public authorities are criticized. They become a kind of vent for the anger against the authority. तो आपको ये बताना है किसने इस कॉन्सेप्ट को डेवलप किया था. वॉल्टर बेंजामिन, a very prominent Marxist. Jürgen Habermas, he is related with Frankfurt School, second generation or younger generation of Frankfurt School. Thomas Adorno, once again related with Frankfurt School, or Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams, we have already discussed how he developed cultural materialism studies. तो दोस्तों आंसर इस क्वेश्चन से रिलेटेड है. इट वाज डेवलप्ड बाय Jürgen Habermas. हेबरमास जो था वो जो थे ही वाज फ्रॉम द सेकंड जनरेशन एसोसिएटेड विद द फ्रैंकफर्ट स्कूल, जो कल्चरल स्टडीज़ के अंदर एक बड़ा इम्पॉर्टेंट सेंटर था, बर्मिंघम स्टडी सेंटर की तरह. ओके, मूविंग टू आवर क्वेश्चन नंबर 5. सोसाइटी ऑफ द स्पेक्टिकल, इट इज़ अ ग्राउंड ब्रेकिंग वर्क. दिस इज क्वाइट रीसेंट development, a groundbreaking work that describes the immense accumulation of spectacles like departmental stores, MTV, shopping malls. They characterize the new consumer society. Who is the writer of this book? Obviously we can understand इस book के अंदर writer he talks about this new capitalist and consumerist society, and he says that these are the particular symbol of this society, this new capitalist society. What shows on MTV, which is full of consumerist detailing spectacles, shopping malls and departmental store. So who is the writer of this particular book, Society of the Spectacle? Okay, is it Guy Debord? Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes has done very important work in this particular area. Especially he has written more about camera, photography, films, and how they influence people. Henri Lefebvre, he's once again a French cultural study theorist, and Jean Baudrillard. Jean Baudrillard, a postmodernist thinker who has also discussed about this particular postmodern condition of consumerist society. Okay, out of these writers, the correct answer is Guy Debord. Guy Debord ने ये book लिखी थी Society of the Spectacle, in which he discussed about the new concept of capitalism. Okay, question number 6 talks about which among the following facts is not applicable to the British cultural studies, especially the Birmingham School. We know that the establishment of the Birmingham School is one of the key steps in development of cultural studies as a particular specialized area of study. तो आपको बताना है इन चारों में से कौन सा वो फैक्ट है जो इस पर एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. First is British cultural studies considered youth subcultures as a potent form of counter hegemony. I hope and I know very well that you all have read about this concept of hegemony. Hegemony means a particular flow of power in which one particular class has the authority over other class. तो ये जो ब्रिटिश सोसाइटी कल्चरल स्टडीज का ग्रुप था, ये मान के चलते थे कि यूथ सब कल्चर जैसे पॉप एंड रैग, ये जो म्यूज़िक है, ये एक बड़ा ही पोटेंट फॉर्म है, बड़ा ही इम्पॉर्टेंट टूल है उस हेजेमनी जो सेंटर के द्वारा कंट्रोल किया जाता है, उस हेजेमनी को काउंटर करने में. एंड दिस सेंटेंस इज करेक्ट, सो इट इज राइट सेंटेंस. सेकेंड इज it analyzed society as a hierarchical set of social relations characterized by the operation of the subordinate class, gender and race. I know you all can feel that this is, yes, this is right one also. ये भी बिल्कुल सही इनके ऊपर applicable होता है कि ये society को एक hierarchical mode में मान के चलते थे, जिसमें जिनके पास power थी वो control करते थे on the basis of और बाकी जो मार्जिनल क्लास होती थी उसका ऑपरेशन किया जाता था. थर्ड स्टेटमेंट इज इट सपोर्ट्स द फ्रैंकफर्ट स्कूल्स नोशन ऑफ अ पैसिव ऑडियंस हु डज नॉट कंट्रीब्यूट इन प्रोडक्शन ऑफ मीनिंग. ओके, जो फ्रैंकफर्ट स्कूल था कल्चरल स्टडीज का, इट रैकन्स दैट द ऑडियंस सेक्शन जो होता है कल्चरल स्टडीज में, वो केवल एक पैसिव होता है, वो एक जो सेक्शन है, इट डजंट कंट्रीब्यूट एक्टिवली इनटू द प्रोटेस्ट. देखते हैं हम इसके बारे में. पहले हम फोर्थ और देख लें. इट रिजेक्ट्स द डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन हाई एंड लो कल्चर्स. ये तो एक हॉलमार्क फीचर है बर्मिंघम स्कूल का कि इट डजंट डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन दिस इज हाई कल्चर और दिस इज लो कल्चर. सो दिस सेंटेंस is not applicable to the British cultural studies, क्योंकि British cultural studies ऑडियंस को भी उतना ही एक्टिव मानकर चलती थी, एंड इट थिंक्स दैट ये जो एक बड़ा डायनामिक रिलेशनशिप होता है एक सोसाइटी के अंदर. Okay, moving ahead to our question number 7. Considered as a seminal work of cultural studies, this book by Ariel Dorfman and Armand Mattelart, it provides the critical dissection of the meanings, messages and ideologies in the seemingly harmless comic books. Okay, the study of comic books as an entity of culture is on the rise during last 20 or 30 years. पिछले 20-30 सालों में जो एस्पेक्ट्स थे सोसाइटी के जिनके द्वारा कल्चर को प्रोपोगेट किया जाता है, जो अभी तक इग्नोर किए गए थे, उनके ऊपर फोकस किया जा रहा है. कॉमिक बुक इज़ वन अमंग दैम. तो जो एरियल डॉफमैन और अर्मांड माटलार्ट का ये जो बुक है, इसके अंदर डिज्नी और अदर कॉमिक आर्ट को स्टडी किया गया है और बताया गया है कि दे आर नॉट सो हार्मलेस एंड मेड ओनली फॉर चिल्ड्रन. किस तरह से ये इनकलकेट करते हैं सर्टेन वैल्यूज़ को. तो इस बुक का नाम क्या है? How to read Donald Duck, rereading Donald Duck, understanding comics and apocalyptic integrity. देखिए इसका करेक्ट आंसर जो है हाउ टू रीड डोनाल्ड डक, दिस इज द राइट आंसर. बट दीज थ्री बुक्स आर आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रिगार्डिंग द कॉमिक स्टडीज. इन सभी के अंदर कॉमिक स्टडीज को एक सीरियस कल्चरल एपिटमी के रूप में डिस्कस किया गया है. Question number 8 says postmodernism or the cultural logic of late capitalism. It is a landmark essay which describes postmodernism as a form of cultural appropriate to the glitzy surfaces, culture of image and spectacle with emphasis on appearance and style. Already हम देख चुके हैं किस तरह से एक बुक उसको हमने डिस्कस करा जिसमें बताया गया है स्पेक्टिकल जो सोसाइटी है वो स्पेक्टिकल में चेंज हो गई है. दिस इज अनदर वर्क which describes the postmodern society as a society obsessed with images, with presentation, with the spectacle. तो ये ऐसे जो लिखा है इसके अंदर भी इसी चीज़ को बड़ा ही डिटेल्ड और एनालिटिकल वे के अंदर डिस्कस किया गया है. आपको बताना है हु इज़ द ऑथर ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल. इज इट जीन बॉडलार्ड, फ्रेडरिक जेमसन, एंजेला मैक्रॉबी और जीन फ्रैंकोइस ल्योतार्ड. फ्रैंकोइस ल्योतार्ड पोस्ट मॉडर्न कंडीशन के राइटर हैं जिन्होंने बहुत इफ़ेक्टिवली वे के अंदर प्रेजेंट करा है प्रेजेंट वर्ल्ड को. फ्रेडरिक जेमसन वो एक मार्क्सिस्ट राइटर हैं, नियो मार्क्सिस्ट हैं. जीन बॉडलार्ड हम बात कर चुके हैं. एंजेला मैक्रॉबी शी इज़ अ वेरी प्रोमिनेंट फेमिनिस्ट कल्चरल स्टडी थिंकर. तो इनमें जो आंसर है दोस्तों राइट आंसर है फ्रेडरिक जेमसन. दिस इज द राइट वन. ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 9. विच अमंग दीज इज नॉट कंसिडर्ड एज अ पार्ट ऑफ सुपरस्ट्रक्चर? द थियरी ऑफ बेस एंड सुपरस्ट्रक्चर मार्क्स के द्वारा प्रोपोगेट की गई. उसके बाद एंजल्स, रेमंड विलियम्स, अलग अलग राइटर्स ने इसको अपने अकॉर्डिंगली मोल्ड करा, अप्लाई करा. तो आप सभी जानते हैं कि जो बेस होता है दैट गवर्न्स द सुपरस्ट्रक्चर. जो सरफेस पर हमें सोसाइटी के एलिमेंट्स दिखाई देते हैं वो सुपरस्ट्रक्चर है और बेस में बेसिकली इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज़ रहती हैं. आई हैव ऑलमोस्ट डिस्क्राइब्ड द आंसर. यू कैन फाइंड इज इट कल्चर, आइडियोलॉजी, मीडिया और कैपिटल. आप आइडिया लगा सकते हैं ये तीनों जो हैं ये सुपरस्ट्रक्चर के पार्ट है. इट इज़ द कैपिटल विच इज़ नॉट part of superstructure, it is the part of the base. Question number 10. Okay, this type of question has been recently on the rise in NET papers. So please try to understand the nature of the question. Below are given two statements labeled as assertion and reason. So one is a statement which is just like an assertion and the second statement is the reason. So you have to find out which of the option is correct regarding them. Assertion is all the basic assumption of the cultural studies are Marxists in nature. Okay, and the second statement which is supposed to be its reason, to understand the meaning of culture we must analyze it in relation to the social structure. Okay, now the options are assertion and reason, both are correct and R is correct explanation of A. So it is a complete set. Okay, second is assertion and reason, both are correct but R is not able to explain A. Third is A is correct, R is incorrect and both A and R are incorrect. Okay friends, अगर आपने थोड़ा भी कल्चरल स्टडीज़ का डिस्कस करा है, स्टडी करा है, उसको एनालाइज करा है, यू मस्ट हैव नोटिस्ड दैट हाउ डीपली इट इज़ अफेक्टेड बाय द मार्क्सिस्ट थियरीज. सो assertion is correct and also the reason is because they consider culture is not separate from our other economic activities. So that is why to understand culture exactly, we have to understand it in relation with other social structure. So yes, both A and R are correct, and R is correct explanation of A. And with this we come to our last question, bonus question. By ideology I mean the mental framework, the language, the concepts, categories, imagery of thought, and the system of representation which different classes and social groups deploy in order to make sense of and render intelligible the way society works. This is the definition of ideology, and the concept of ideology is not a very new one. It is quite an old one, but it has been defined in a newer sense by Marxist thinkers. यू हैव टू फाइंड आउट ये जो डेफिनेशन आइडियोलॉजी की किसके द्वारा दी गई है, ग्राम्स्की के द्वारा जिनका हेजेमनी का कॉन्सेप्ट पॉपुलर है, रेमंड विलियम्स के द्वारा, स्टुअर्ट हॉल के द्वारा, वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट थिंकर रिलेटेड विद कल्चरल स्टडीज. एक या दो क्वेश्चन इनसे जरूर आते हैं, सो रीड अबाउट हिम डीपली, और लॉरेंस ग्रॉसबर्ग के द्वारा. ओके फ्रेंड्स, विदाउट मेकिंग यू मोर इम्पेशेंट, द राइट आंसर हियर इज स्टुअर्ट हॉल. ये जो आइडियोलॉजी की डेफिनेशन है स्टुअर्ट हॉल के द्वारा दी गई है. ओके फ्रेंड्स, विद दिस वी कम टू द एंड ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर क्विज सेशन. आई होप दीज क्वेश्चंस वर quite entertaining for you. They have give you some thought to read about, and cultural study is really a very occupying kind of study. So I hope you are going to read it, analyze it, understand it. If you have any queries, if you want to know more about, if you need some PDFs or books, you can WhatsApp me at this particular number. Till then, thank you. Bye.
Hello dear friends, welcome back to Literacity, the channel which serves requirements related with English literature. And today we are here with another quiz on cultural studies. Cultural studies, which is a very engaging field of literature and especially theory, which talks about different aspects of culture. Those aspects also which are not considered traditionally to be part of culture, but which influence public a lot, like mass media. Dear friends, for the past 3 or 4 decades, cultural studies have been a prominent point of discussion, debate, and arguments among all the intellectual community related with economics, sociology, and even literature also. In this quiz, I have attempted to cover some recent areas of studies related with field of cultural studies, and these writers and concepts which I have covered are very important from NET point of view. So I hope this quiz will be very beneficial for your preparation. So let's start with our first question, dear students, and the first question is about a book which is subtitled A Philosophical Inquiry into Freud. This work by Herbert Marcuse presents his utopian Marxist vision and is considered an important book in the development of gender studies. Now, you can see 2 or 3 important points. First, the book is basically a philosophical inquiry into Freud. So this book is basically written by a Marxist and is about the founder of, we can say, psychoanalysis. So it's a, we can say, combination of these 2 theoretical standpoints, and this book basically presents Marcuse, who was a famous Marxist thinker, his ideas regarding utopian Marxist vision, how a society can be best Marxist society. So what is the name of the book? In fact, all these 4 books are written by Herbert Marcuse. One Dimensional Man, An Essay on Liberation, Eros and Civilization, and Reason and Revolution. They all are very important work, but this book, this particular book, and the correct answer is Eros and civilization. This is the correct answer. In fact, let me give you some additional detail about this book. It basically questions the view of Freud that civilization is based on the permanent subjugation of human instinct. This is what Freud thought, that we have to, the society had to subjugate basic instincts. On the other hand, he discusses that social meaning of biology, history seen not as a class struggle but a fight against repression of our instincts. So basically it is mixture of Marxist thought, which is basically based on economic revaluation of society, and also on the ideas of Freud. That is why it inaugurated, it basically helped establishment of gender studies, which also discuss all these points. Our next question, dear friends, is writer of seminal works like Jackie and Ideology of Adolescent Femininity and Feminism and Youth Culture. This cultural studies scholar is known for focusing on issues related with working class women's and young girls' complex relationship with femininity and cultural production. In fact, the work by this writer, she is very much concerned about popular culture, mass culture, about media, and the impact of these things on the lower class, working class and young class subcultures, which are generally not included in the mainstream media. All these things are discussed by this famous, this prominent, this current cultural studies scholar. Is it Angela McRobbie, Rosalind Gill, Suzanne Bolotin, or Suzanne Bourdieu? You have to, these all four names are very important names. They all are at present doing various researches in the field of social studies and cultural studies. But the answer for this particular question, the writer of Jackie and Ideology of Adolescent Femininity, is Angela McRobbie. Angela McRobbie, my dear friends, she is a British cultural theorist, and also she is very vocal about the impact of subculture. Rosalind Gill, if we talk about her, she is also a British sociologist and feminist cultural theorist. Suzanne Bolotin, she is author of Voices of the Post-feminist Generation, which is also an important book. And Suzanne Bourdieu, she is known for her work in body studies. Dear friends, these all types, body studies, subculture studies, punk culture, cyber culture, these all are, we can say, varieties of cultural studies. Cultural studies is not a, we can say, a very morphous body. It is an amorphous body. There is no fixed boundary. There is no fixed watertight categories where to situate the studies. It includes almost all aspects of life. So these all are some recent developments, and various theorists are working on it. Our next question talks about Christian Metz. He is an important and influential figure, best known for pioneering a scientific approach in the field of. So you have to identify the field in which Christian Metz has made his contribution. Is it eco-criticism, post-humanism, translation studies, or film studies? Once again, I would like to bring your attention to these various fields, which are emerging fields, which are basically posts of concern for various thinkers. Eco-criticism talk about ecology and human interaction and their concerns regarding the decline of this rich relationship. Post-humanism is about the new technological space and how human beings are treated more like machines. Translation studies is about basically how we translate a particular writer in different language, and what are the criteria, and what differences a culture technique creates. And film studies, it is also a trend which began at the beginning of 20th century, which is now very much prominent. It talks about how cinema is also a very proper medium, a kind of literature through which we have to see. Okay, if we talk about Christian Metz, yes friends, he is related with film studies. He has authored many important books on this topic. In fact, we can say he is the father of modern film studies. His book like Film Language, which he authored in 1968, and also very important book considered Bible of film theory, Language and Cinema, which he wrote in 1971. These two books established the field of film studies very formally, and now many more directors and theorists have tried to understand the concept of film studies. Our next question: there ain't no black in the Union Jack, the cultural politics of race and nation, and the empire strikes back, race and racism in 1970s Britain. These two books are candid critique of the ethnocentric bias of early cultural studies, and they underscore the heterogeneous populations of the English nation and their cultural practices. Basically, what these books try to say that generally in all the cultural studies, the early cultural studies, the focus was on the white race, their culture, their habits, their way of life. They all ignored the migrants, the other races. So look at the title, there ain't no black in Union Jack, race and racism in 1970s Britain. So these two books and some other works like that, they try to pinpoint, they try to brought to surface the heterogeneous populations. There are Asians, there are Africans, there are other migrants living in Britain who are generally ignored. Their culture is generally silenced. So these particular books try to surface these hitherto closed ideas. So who is the author of these books? Is it Stuart Hall, Henry Louis Gates, Paul Gilroy, or Dick Hebges? Dear students, the answer for this question is Paul Gilroy. He is a very influential writer in this particular respect. In fact, another name is Henry Louis Gates, whose very popular book is Figures in Black. Figures in Black. Please remember the name of this book also. It is also very important book in black studies, and similarly Paul Gilroy's work tried to present the consciousness of black identity in a multicultural nation. Next question, dear friends, is Subculture, the meaning of style, is acclaimed as one of the most influential books in cultural studies that brilliantly analyzes different facets of style like punk culture, pop music, working class subculture, and it explores how it is commodified and diffusion of style by the media. Basically, the writer of this book, not only studies various subculture, youth culture, alternative cultures like we can say rap songs, punk, or we can say particular part of culture which is not in the mainstream. It not only focuses on these cultures, but it also describes the technique by which the media commodify it and make it a part of the merchandise and a part of new capitalist strategy to commodify everything. The writer of this book is Paul Gilroy, Dick Hebges, Lawrence Grossberg or Phil Cohen. You have to identify the writer, and without taking more time, the answer is Dick Hebges. Dick Hebges basically works in this particular field, that how new capitalist tendency to commodify everything so that everything becomes consumer friendly. Next question is, this renowned theorist of globalization studies has proposed 5 dimensions of global cultural flows. This term is also given by this writer and is of the view that relationship between these 5 escapes, these 5 flows, dimensions, is very disjunctive and profoundly unpredictable. It's a beautiful work. This work basically tries to present the view that there are 5 different flows, okay, and because they are flows, they are not unidirectional. It is not that they all are always separated in the present world, rather they sometimes merge and get separate from each other. So this globalization studies basically means that we cannot predict, we cannot be ensured about how a particular nation, how a particular culture, how a particular group of people will interact. Your options are Arjun Appadurai, Madan Sarup, Henry Cripps or Homi Bhabha. The answer for this particular question is Arjun Appadurai. And let me add these escapes, these 5 dimensions. First is media escape. Media escape talks about distribution of electronic capabilities and images made by media. Second is techno escape. Techno escape is about how technology is used globally. Third is finance escape. Obviously, it talks about capital and how it is disposed globally. Fourth one is ideo escape. Ideo escape, which is about political images and ideologies. And the last one is, and most important, ethno escape. Ethno escape is about people, immigrants, tourists, which affects the policies of the country in which they are living or which they are visiting. So all these escapes, these global cultural flows, they interact with each other, and their communication, their relation is disjunctive and unpredictable. So this is the concept given by Arjun Appadurai. Our next question is, a prominent political scientist and cultural critic, Benedict Anderson, gave this term to define a nation as a socially constructed community. So it's a very you can say revised definition of nation. Nation is nothing like a tradition, or it is not defined geographically, it is not defined politically, it is not defined culturally, but rather it is a constructed community, a socially constructed community. So you have to identify the term which Benedict Anderson proposes. Is it imagined nationality, imagined society, imagined communities, or imagined culture? And it is a very important concept, and it is very likely that such questions appear in your exam. The answer, dear friends, is imagined communities. In fact, why he calls it imagined? Because the actuality of the smallest nation, the nation which has population less than 1 lakh or 5 lakh, even our relationship to all other inhabitants of that nation is not possible to know. एक single person cannot know all other you can say citizen of that particular nation. One cannot know all the aspects of economy, all the aspects of history and geography, but we imagine that we are connected to each other. You can understand that for a country as large as India, it is impossible even to know everything about your district. Let's not talk about our country. So it is just imagined that we share all these things with more than 1 billion people. Next question, dear friends, is the concept that describes a space where multiracial peer groups can remake the identity defining cultural signs and symbols, and they also reject the prejudice of racism. This is basically we are talking about a space, okay, and this space is a special space where people of different races, they come across each other, they interact with each other, and before that they have to leave all the traditional prejudices related with one race. They have to forsake their forced identities and they have to create new identities for themselves. It's a very important concept in post-colonial and postmodern discourse, and you have to identify the answer. Is it diasporic space, hybrid space, liminal space, or multicultural space? So as I hope you can guess the answer, it is liminal space. Liminal space or liminal state where we have to renounce our roles, where we have to demolish the structures, the traditional structures, where African or black people and white young people, they can engage with each other, they can have a talk with each other, they can basically exchange their ideas without any racist prejudice on non-racist terms. Okay, next question. Originally used as a derogatory term for a style of mass produced art or design using popular cultural icons, this term is now used in postmodernist discourse to challenge the received distinction between art and mass merchandise. Okay, this term basically means that initially it was used to criticize a particular thing. For example, let's say a statue of Lord Krishna, a statue of Jesus, or some other thing which is a popular icon, and then it is made using some cheap material, and then it is sold. It is sold in form of lockets or other things. But in the present postmodern discourse, it is basically used to show how the hell difference between high art and low art or mass art is artificial. And everything that sells is art. This is the modern definition, postmodern definition of art. So is it pastiche, montage, camp, or kitsch? You have to identify. All these terms basically are related with postmodern discourse, and our term for this particular mass produced cheap art, which was considered cheap art but now which is treated as a part of mass merchandise, it is kitsch. Kitsch is the answer. Kitsch is the term which we use to define this thing. The process by which resistant or innovative cultural forms, which are in fashion, music, forms of political protest, they are taken up and commodified by the culture industry, it is termed as. So you can understand what we are talking about. We are talking about something which was against, which was resisting the main flow of culture, the main body. Okay, but now the cultural industry commodify it and make it a part of main culture. You can find many examples. fashion which started as a sort of rebellion against the proper, even the very popular jeans. It was used to be dress which was initially meant for workers, then it becomes a kind of youth icon, and later it become a commodified item. Now it is even used by that particular class which with which it was initially used as an icon of struggle. So is it incorporation, co-option, interpellation, or both incorporation and co-option? Dear friends, I hope you know, in my one of earlier videos I have talked about this term interpellation. Interpellation is the process by which a human subject is addressed and positioned in relation to ideology. So it is not interpellation, but it is both incorporation and co-option. So the right answer is both A and B. With this we come to our last question of this quiz: postmodernism or the cultural logic of late capitalism. 1991. It is an influential analysis of the postmodern condition. As the author argues, postmodernity has transformed the historical past into a series of pastiche that can be commodified and consumed. We are continuously talking about this aspect in which capitalism or neo-capitalism, how it takes those icon which was against capitalism and uses it and make it a commodity, and then it is consumed by the public. So the writer of this very important book, who is this one? Frederick Jameson, or is it Jean Baudrillard, or is it Jean-Francois Lyotard, or Roland Barthes? You have to identify the answer. Yes, dear friend, it is Frederick Jameson who has given this concept, who has written this book, Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. Okay, dear friends, these 11 questions are all in this particular section. I hope you are covering this very important aspect of your NET preparation. I suggest you should read more and more about terms which are related with postmodernism, and most of the cultural studies work is related with Marxist theory and queer theory or feminism. All aspects of life are covered under it. I hope you are able to cover it in time. Thank you, friends.
Hello and welcome back, dear friends, at Lit eCity YouTube channel, where we discuss some important topics related with UGC NET English. In our present episodes, we are going to deal some important questions that matter for coming exam, and we will handle 25 advanced level MCQs on cultural studies. Dear friends, keep in mind that all these questions have been prepared looking at the recent trends in NTA paper. So here comes our first question. A term introduced by John Fiske and John Hartley to emphasize the active and productive signifying work done by television. Dear friends, before I give you options, remember that John Fiske is most important name to be remembered while we have discussions on television studies. So here are our options: A. Television culture, B. Bardic function, C. Televised ideology, and fourth one is Sage function. Out of these four, John Fiske and Hartley used this particular term to describe the great impact and very important role played by television after 80s, during 90s, and in 20th century, in 21st century also. Dear friends, the term here they are talking about is bardic function. Our next question is, who described the plights of migrants in oft-quoted sentence, "Migration is a one-way trip," in the famous essay Minimal Selves?
Now, this minimal selves is an earlier work of this great cultural theorist, and this famous line, migration is a one-way trip, means those who migrate from one place to another, there is very little chance that they can come back to their native land. Even when they come back, they are no more the natives, they are the returned migrated person. So who made this remark? Was it Stuart Hall? Second is V.S. Naipaul. Third one is Franz Fanon. And the last one is Hannah Arendt. Dear friends, all these four intellectuals, four writers, they have been migrants in their life. But this particular statement, migration is a one-way trip, is made by none other than Stuart Hall. Our third question is the Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies, CCCS. You all must know about this particular center. We basically give credit to this center which inaugurated different phases of cultural studies. It was established at Birmingham University in 1964. Now our question is, in which year it was closed? Our options are, is it in 1979, in 2002, 2015 and 1993? These are the four options. Dear friend, 1 year 1979 is also important because in this year Stuart Hall, who was the second director of this particular institute, his directorship ends. But the right answer that it ended, it was close to the dismay of its followers. It was in 2002. The style of writing that blends fact and fiction, ethnographic observation, literary theory, and memoir, and moves back and forth between personal and academic convention. So it's we can say a pastiche kind of a style in which so many different literary genres are mixed. What is the name for this particular style of writing? Is it fictocriticism? Second is gonzo journalism. Third is field research. And fourth is écriture. All these terms are related somehow from one angle to other to the particular, or we can say a different style of writing. Our options are only first fictocriticism, only fourth écriture, both first and second fictocriticism and gonzo journalism, and both first and third fictocriticism and field research. Dear friends, it is both first and second. Fictocriticism and gonzo journalism is that particular style in which a writer, while writing personal anecdotes or while writing some we can say totally autobiographical non-academic thing, he uses the convention of academic writing like footnotes, like bibliography. So it's we can say it blends fact and fiction. Our next question is, who introduced the concept of grounded aesthetics to denote the act of consumption by common people using symbolic relativity to make sense of the social world? So this grounded aesthetics is actually about not about the high world of the art, but the daily day-to-day world of common people in which they consume particular symbolic qualities of a society, and thus participating, making sense of the social world in which they live, in which they move. Our options are Paul Willis, second one is Theodore Adorno, third one is Ernesto Laclau, and the last one is Raymond Williams. They all have worked about the consumer culture, about the neo we can say capitalist trends, but it was Paul Willis who in his book Notes on Common Culture Towards a Grounded Aesthetics used this term to denote the common man's experience of participating in capitalist culture. Our next question, dear friend, is which among the following statements is not true regarding archaeology? Now, archaeology is one of key concepts by Foucault. It is an analytical tool for uncovering alternative histories of systems of knowledge. Michel Foucault basically emphasizes that history or discourse is the dominance version of his particular events, but archaeology tries to uncover the hidden, the ignored histories of the time. Second is, it is a synchronic analysis of discourses in a specific episteme, while genealogy, we can say a related term, it denotes their diachronic reconstruction. So when we study them in a synchronic manner means taking past, present, future at the similar level, then it becomes archaeology. But if we take a particular incident, it becomes genealogy. Third is, it holds man rather discourses as its object of study. It means that at the center of the study is the quest to know about man, and the last one is it analyzes discourses in condition of their emergence and transformation rather than in their deeper meaning. So the interpretative exercise is about the roundabout experience of that particular event. Out of these four statements, dear friends, the third one is obviously incorrect because it holds discourse as the object of study and ignores man. This is all about archaeology. Our next question is defining authority as a legitimate form of domination. Max Weber distinguished three main types of authority. Which among the following is not the one mentioned by him? I added this mentioned by him because there are other thinkers related with the concept of authority who have added some more factors which were not originally considered by Max Weber. So is it traditional source? Second is charismatic. Third is legal or rational source. And fourth one is intellectual or professional source. All these are for Max Weber. Out of these four, three are sources of authority. A person can achieve authority and then become dominant by having either any one of these or a combination of these. Dear friends, Max Weber has talked about traditional, charismatic and legal or rational sources of authority. So it is intellectual and professional authority on which he hasn't given his views. Which of the following journals was started by Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies in 1972? Once again, a question on CCCS. It is a very important topic, point you must prepare for the exam. So it is International Journal of Cultural Studies. Is it Journal of Peasant Studies, Working Papers in Cultural Studies, or Social Media and Society? All these four are legitimate journals, are concerned with cultural studies, but the one started by Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies was Working Papers in Cultural Studies, known also as WPCS. In reference to the conflicting voices of a text may have conflicting voices which differ from the voice of the author. Frederick Jameson coined this term to denote the smallest intelligible unit of the essentially antagonistic collective discourse of the social class. So essentially antagonist from the author or from the dominant point of view, this is the smallest intelligible unit. Is it ideology? Is it deathlessness? Is it heterogene? Or is it neo-episteme? Out of these four terms, first two, ideology and depthlessness, are associated with Frederick Jameson, but the smallest intelligible unit according to him is ideology. Which among these is a quantitative research method used in social science to examine the subject matter of media texts, film, art, music, and other cultural products. So it is actually a question belonging to both cultural studies and research methodology. A quantitative research method in which data is collected regarding how media text, film, art, and music affect behavior. Is it content analysis, survey research, descriptive research, or correlational analysis? These four are different research methods, especially used in social sciences, but the one related with media text, film, art, music is content analysis. With respect to the concept of cultural capital as proposed by Philip Bourdieu, which among these is not a source of cultural capital? Once again, Philip Bourdieu has discussed about different sources of cultural capital. Is it objective, embodied, symbolic, or institutionalized? Out of these four, dear friend, it is the symbolic value of cultural capital which Bourdieu doesn't discuss. Coined by the band, a rock band, Negative Land, in 1984 to denote practices, social practices, pop culture practices, mob practices to disrupt the corporate and the commercial exploitation of public spaces. What is the term? Is it culture jamming? Is it culture vulture, culture rapping, or culture rupture? Actually, Negative Land, the band coined this term, but it became a race among the people of later 80s and 90s, and it was used for in a lot of sense for demonstrations, for protest, and thus showing their, we can say, disagreement with the corporate practices, how they acquire and dominate public spaces. Dear friend, the term is culture jamming. Coined by Gilbert Ryle and made popular by Clifford Geertz, this term is used to describe interpretive writing that provides cultural context and meaning people place on actions, words, things, so they have enough context outside the culture to make the meaning of behavior. It means that this particular term describe our making sense of a particular action, word, but making that sense in a particular cultural context. So is it thin description, thick description, deep description, or vertical description? Dear friends, it is used by Clifford Geertz in his theory of thick description, which is not about the interpretation of the direct action, word, or thing, but the contextual study and interpretation, so that a person can understand the reason behind that particular behavior. The concept of flaneur, the casual wanderer among the street, observer, reporter of the street life in modern life, is most famously associated with: first option is Charles Baudelaire, second is Claude Lévi-Strauss, third one is Walter Benjamin, and the last one is Edward Said. Out of these four, there are two critics with whom, two, we can say, thinkers or intellectual with whom the concept of flaneur is associated. Both first and second, Baudelaire and the Strauss, both first and third, Baudelaire and Benjamin, only third Benjamin, and Baudelaire and Edward Said. Dear friend, it is first and third. It was first used by Charles Baudelaire in his poems regarding a person who is restless, wandering the street and commenting upon the life. It was then taken by Walter Benjamin in the modern sense in placing this concept in Marxist universe, with whom the concept of deterritorialization, the process by which a social territory loses its current organization, deterritorialization. So that is why the territory is lost, and who are the critic who have given this concept? Is it Franz Fanon, Edward Said, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, or Gilles, Deleuze, and Félix Guattari. Out of these four, it was the work of these two, Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, who basically forwarded and proposed a sense of deterritorialization in which a person basically a social construction, an organization related with land, it is totally altered and changed. Which of the following statements with respect to the concept of doxa? Doxa is a Latin term and it was used quite as early as from Plato, but we have to find out what is the implication of doxa as used by Philip Bourdieu. Doxa is a set of rules in a particular field that define what is thinkable and sayable. You can say it is the authentic version. Second is Plato distinguished between episteme, which is superior knowledge, and doxa, which is inferior knowledge based on opinions of common public. It refers to the tendency of every society to naturalize aspect of its own established order, considering them only truthful version, or we can say only versions of truth which are valid. Doxa is always in contrast with orthodoxy that tries to rupture it. Dear friends, it is obviously the last one, which is not correct, because doxa is the base on which orthodoxy is constituted. So doxa is always in accordance with orthodoxy. Please remember all these options and try to figure out the complete concept of doxa. Deleuze and Guattari, in their seminal work, 1,000 Plateaus, redefine the Western concept of people's relationship to the land which they inhabit. Which term is used by them to denote the concept of land not owned by individual? They have taken a survey of this world and find out that there are huge area in this world which are not owned by individual, and the areas like other continents like Europe and America and Asia, which are perfectly administrated by the government and societies. What is the difference between these two particular areas? So the term is sedentary, nomad, migrant, or despot. Out of these four, three terms, sedentary, nomad, and despot, are used by Deleuze and Guattari in their discussion about this land, but the word they use is nomad. And they use it for the people, taken from the people living in desert in which they don't have any land. They move easily from one place to another without the sense of belongingness. So this is particular word used, this particular analogy or metaphor is used by them. The French term jouissance has been used by thinkers of different schools in various ways. Which of the following one is the meaning derived by Yulia Kristeva? Jouissance is an erotic ecstasy similar to the death drive found in the domain of the real. Textual bliss in reading such text which disrupts expectation and challenges the reader to participate. The feminine libidinal drive repressed by the symbolic order and art is the flow of jouissance into language. A sight of two-dimensional pleasure, corporeal, meaning related with body, and spiritual, which can be felt through different parts of body. These four are four definitions or four ways in which the concept of jouissance has been used by, especially by French writers. First, let us know about the answer. It is Julia Kristeva. According to Julia Kristeva, the feminine libidinal drive is jouissance. The first one is given by Lacan. The second one is by Barthes, and the last one is by Helen Sizu. So all these, try to remember all these four definitions. To describe how discipline works to produce individuals who act within the interest of power, Foucault used the term panopticon, from which philosopher he borrowed the concept and this term. Was it Plato, Jeremy Bentham, Thomas Hobbes, or Voltaire? Dear friends, we all know that Foucault used panopticon, in which a dominant society controls the individual sense of belonging, but originally it was used by Jeremy Bentham, who devised a plan of prisons through which a central tower can keep vigilance on a circular cells in which prisoners live. A powerful contribution to the theory of ideology, the sublime object of ideology, is a critique of the notion that it is possible to escape ideology and rejection of a substantial individual subject. Who is the author? Now, this particular critic has rejected all the, we can say, post-structuralist, especially critics like Theodor Adorno and Raymond Williams' concept that it is possible by human beings to escape ideology. This particular neo-Marxist think that no, it's not possible. Is it Ernesto Laclau, Chantal Mouffe, Slavoj, Žižek, and Richard Rorty? All these are, we can say, the important names in the current or neo-Marxist theory. This particular book, The Sublime Object of Ideology, is authored by Slavoj Žižek. Transculturation is the concept used to describe the merging of different cultural elements, a complex process of mutual cultural adjustments resulting from colonial interaction between the colonizer and the colonized cultures. Who coined the term? Bronislaw Malinowski, J.W. Pyle, Paul Gilroy, or Fernando Ortiz. Now, dear friends, there is a slight difference between two terms, transculturation and acculturation. Transculturation means both colonizer and colonized affect each other, while acculturation is colonized, we can say, adaptation of the culture of the colonizer. The correct answer is Fernando Ortiz. Bronislaw Malinowski, he has coined this term acculturation. Freud used this term to describe our experiences in adulthood that remind us of early psychic stages, the aspect of our unconscious life, the primitive experiences of human species, which return when we become adult. Is it uncanny, displacement, pleasure principle, or sublimation? Dear friend, it is uncanny, which is basically coming back of our unconscious life in the conscious life. Hegemony and socialist strategy tries to assert that the discursive conflicts by which contending parties try to achieve hegemony explain values better than social structures do. Who is or are the author or authors of this path-breaking work? Ernesto Laclau and Chantal Mouffe, Slavoj Žižek and Chantal Mouffe and Jürgen Habermas, and Ernesto Laclau and Slavoj Žižek. Ernesto Laclau, Chantal Mouffe, and Slavoj Žižek, all these three have worked in collaboration, supporting each other's argument, but this particular book is written by Laclau and Mouffe. The whole is the untrue is one of the most popular phrases from the book Minima Moralia, a harsh critique of capitalist society. Who is the author? Is it Theodor Adorno, Max Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse, or Ernest Bloch? Dear friends, the whole is the untrue is considered to be the epitome of this critic's whole critical discussion. It is none other than Theodor Adorno. And the last question for the day, which of the following pairs of a book, essay, and the writer is not correctly matched? Is it Arguments Within English Marxism by Perry Anderson, The Party of Theory by E.P. Thompson, The Gift by Derrida, and The Author as Producer by Walter Benjamin? Dear friends, all these are very important and popular book, but one is not correctly matched, and that is The Gift, which is actually written by Marcel Mauss. So with this, we come to the end of this enthralling session of 25 advanced level MCQs. Please keep watching other videos related with cultural studies in this on this particular topic at Lit eCity YouTube channel. Keep supporting and keep giving me inputs regarding on which topic we should make our videos. Thank you, dear friends.